What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bleav In Mavs with your host, Mo Murphy. And man, it's been a tough NBA Finals. It has. Dallas Mavericks are down 0-2. Games 3 and 4 are coming up in Dallas, starting tonight, Wednesday night. And this is for all the marbles. Game 3 obviously is a must win. Now, I understand, like, you have to win 4, but we all know the history. Like, any team that's ever been down 3-0 has never won a championship, or never won a playoff series. Actually, I don't even want to say championship. Any team that's been down 3-0 has never came back and won the series. Boston was the team. They came close to it last year, being down 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami Heat, being able to take it to Game 7. But that goes to show you how hard it is, because even Boston was able to take it to a Game 7, play a Game 7 at home against the Miami Heat, and still weren't able to complete the comeback being down 3-0. So obviously this Game 3, the focus is you got to win. It's a must win if you want to live to fight another day and still march on throughout the finals and understand that you have an opportunity and you have a chance to win this series. You got to win Game 3. You don't want to put yourself in like something where you have to overcome anything that historically has never happened. Like, and I know we're getting close to, we think we may see it, right? Like, there was a point in time in the NCAA tournament where a 16 seed had never beat a 1 seed. And I think we've seen it 2 or 3 times now. Boston almost won last year, like I said, but this is a must win Game 3 for the Dallas Mavericks. And we're going to talk about a lot of things why, but there's some major news coming out of Boston first. And I'm going to be honest, this might have an impact on the rest of the series. And if you're Boston, this news hurts, but you're up 2-0. So hearing this type of news, you would much rather be up 2-0 and hear this type of news and understand, like, bro, there's a possibility that Kristaps Porzingis does not play for the rest of the series. His injury, so I'm going to read off of basically what the explanation was for his injury. So Celtics center Kristaps Porzingis suffered a torn medial retinaculum, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon in his left leg at 3 minutes and 27 seconds of the third quarter of Game 2. The injury is unrelated to Porzingis' prior right calf injury. After consultation with numerous specialists regarding this rare injury, his availability for upcoming games will be determined day to day. Now, I am not a doctor. I would assume majority of the people that are going to be listening to this probably aren't doctors as well. So I did a little bit of research. I needed this injury, these medical terms. I needed them to dumb it down for me a little bit. So I did some research. So let me give you the true, like, stale, dumb it down version of what his injury is. Whether it was a prior knee injury or he hurt his knee, I'm assuming it's a prior knee injury. Again, I am not a doctor, so this is all assumption on this, but I'm assuming basically what it is his prior knee injury led to his ankle injury. And so because of his knee injury, it led to some tendons being dislocated in his foot and ankle. Now, this is a 6 to 8 week recovery, usually like heavy physical therapy or surgery is the recommended process. Usually 6 to 8 weeks to recover. What can happen with this injury is you can have, basically, like we saw with Kawhi, the word degenerative knee injury. It can turn into like some deformity of your bones and tendons and basically be a degenerative injury for the rest of your life. Is that the case? We don't know. Joe Mazzulla said it's serious. So obviously, like, they're going to take some precaution. But from a Dallas Mavericks perspective, I never wish injury on nobody. And if Dallas is going to win this series, I want Kristaps to be 100% healthy. I want Kristaps to play. Like, you want to win a championship. You want to win any playoff series, and you don't ever want there to be an asterisk. Now, both teams have earned their way. There is no asterisk of being able to win this series, but you don't want, like, well, we were up 2-0 and then Kristaps goes down. Now, I don't think Celtics players, coaches, or anybody within the organization are going to think that way. But obviously, like the fans, well, we had it in a bag. And if Kristaps not going to play for the rest of the series and we end up losing, like, there's our built-in excuse as a fan base. It's the fans in media that create excuses for the players, not the players, not the coaches, and not anybody within the organization. Now, they might walk away and be like, damn, We ended up losing to Dallas. If we had Kristaps, that wouldn't have been the result, but we live with the result because we still put trust in the other 12, 13, or 14 players that have a possibility of playing in the game. So when I'm looking at Dallas, no player, none of them, especially Kristaps used to play for the Mavericks, none of them are like, oh, it's a sigh of relief, but you do have to look at the advantage it gives you if you're the Dallas Mavericks. And so it starts defensively. Kristaps, to me, everybody can agree or disagree, but Kristaps, to me, was the key in creating every single mismatch that Boston has offensively by him being on the floor. I say that because Boston's most effective way of winning this series. Now, I watched a lot of Boston during the playoffs, but I'm not a dedicated fan. I'm not a person that covered the Boston Celtics. So what I see and what I take away from watching the Celtics is completely different than the fan base. I'm not here to crap on the Boston Celtics. They're up 2-0. They've earned it. We'll talk about Tatum a little bit and the hate he's been getting a little bit. But if I'm Dallas, Kristaps unlocks everything that prevents us from being a great team defense. It now turns us into having to be one-on-one defenders. And I've said this coming into the series. I said it after game 1. I said it after game 2. But Kristaps forces you to basically play one-on-one defense with no rim protection. There's minimal lively help on defense, minimal PJ Washington being help on defense. Very rarely will you catch a time where Daniel Gafford's able to play help side defense because Kristaps pulls those bigs out of the paint and opens it up for basically Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday to be able to play the drive and dish game. They shoot the most threes. They have the second best percentage in basketball, and they have the highest volume of three-point shots at Boston. So he unlocks that style of play to be easier for Boston. So you saw it in the first quarter. He comes out hot. Then you see Drew Holiday hitting, Jason Tatum hitting, Jaylen Brown hitting. And I know I say Jason Tatum hitting. He hasn't shot well. He actually has like the worst field goal percentage of anybody that's ever played in the NBA Finals, especially a star since the NBA-ABA merger. But we're not going to kill Jason Tatum for that because he has been very unselfish. He has been willing to do all the other things because his shot's not going down in order for his team to be up 2-0. So you can have the conversation about Tatum being a superstar and what this means. And if he doesn't win Finals MVP, I'll let everybody in Boston do that. I'll let the national media do that. I'll let everybody else do that. But for Dallas, that's what Kristaps unlocks. If Kristaps is not on the court, I know they have Al Horford, but let's just be honest. If I'm Dallas, I will let Al Horford shoot threes all day. If you're Boston, you would think like that's what Dallas is going to try and force you to do. Without Kristaps, though, it doesn't unlock that ease of offense. So now Dallas can start putting pressure on Boston and playing team defense. I think they will be able to sag off Horford a little more and force him to hit 4, 5, or 6 threes. Make Horford have 15 to 18 points if they're going to win game 3 in Dallas. Like, you live with the result like that. And I know you don't want to say it because now you're down 3-0 and you're probably not winning the NBA Finals. But when you come in here, you want to minimize the stars. You want to minimize Jason Tatum. You want to minimize Jaylen Brown. And so if they beat you, it's going to have to be from a hot night from Al Horford or Derek White or Drew Holiday. And I know they showed they could do that in game 2, but this is the type of Kristaps is the key to a lot of that. Just being on the floor, his presence on the floor. Now, from an offensive standpoint, Kristaps not being there, and I don't know, he's day-to-day. He's questionable for game 3. So we don't really know whether he's going to play or not. But from an offensive standpoint, you take Kristaps off the floor. I think you'll have a mismatch. You might could go small ball and create a mismatch when they have Al Horford on the court. And at the same time, it's going to open up your drive and dish. It's going to force Boston to be a lot quicker to get out there on the corner, which they defend at the best rate, at the best clip. They defend the corner 3 at a better clip than anybody else in the NBA. Any other team in the league, Boston defends that. And so in the first 2 games, they've had a fairly easy time of taking it away. I think in game 2, it was more so. I think Boston struggled preventing the open corner 3s, but also Dallas wasn't hitting, so Boston kept living with it. It's like until they shoot us out of this, we're going to keep playing the same defense, and we're going to kind of keep stopping Kyrie, stopping Luka. So now I think, though, the lob game will open up, the pick and roll game with Luka and Kyrie and Lively or Gafford. I think anybody, whether it's Gafford or Derek Lively or even PJ Washington at times, I think all 3 of those guys are going to be able to take advantage of the dunker spot offensively. I think now you put a little bit more pressure on the defenders of Boston because now they can't get in foul trouble. They already really, the goal should have been trying to get them in foul trouble this entire series. In game 1 and game 2, the goal should have been Luka and Kyrie got to go at Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Jrue Holiday immediately, try and get them in foul trouble and get them off the floor for a few more minutes than they planned on not playing and having them rest on the bench throughout the game. That's what should have been happening, whether they were trying to and it just wasn't happening. I mean, you judge for yourself. Now, from a film breakdown perspective, if you want to get deeper and dive deeper into it from a film perspective, make sure you go follow my guy Jericho, who runs Mavs Chronicle at Kyrie Mavs on Twitter. He has all the clips. He breaks all this stuff down from a film perspective so you can see it. Make sure you go check out his YouTube as well. But being able to talk about it is like now I think you're going to make Jason Tatum, you're going to force him to have the game that everybody's waiting for Jason Tatum to have in order for him to be widely considered a superstar, for him to be the leader of this team and the finals MVP, the face of this team while winning a championship. I think you're going to force Tatum to have that kind of game. The stat, though, is when Tatum has to have that kind of game, the Boston Celtics really aren't that good. They do a lot more standing around. Jaylen Brown finds himself standing around a lot more. Jrue Holiday as well. And I think that's an acknowledgement of, you kind of know who the most talented player is on that team. And I know we like to kill Jason Tatum, and I've been one. Are we sure Tatum's a lot better than Jaylen Brown? It's not clear. Like, Jason Tatum doesn't clear Jaylen Brown like you might have thought 2 years ago. But they acknowledge that, like, Jason Tatum, that's the guy. That's the go-to guy. That's the guy that's going to win this if he has to take over. But Boston's not the most effective offensively, and so I think you're going to put that type of pressure. Now, in game 2, there was a point. Dallas almost made it to the point that I said they would need to make in game 2 if they want to win game 2. And that's basically get to the fourth quarter without any sporadic scoring spurts from Boston. And be in the game, be down 1, be up 3, be up 7, be down 4. Just be within striking distance headed into the fourth quarter, because then if it's a closer game, I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown change how they've been playing to get that 10-point, 12-point lead. And Dallas almost made it. And then the final 4 minutes of the third quarter happened. Boston goes up double digits. And so now you're looking in like you didn't force Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown to have to really be a savior in the fourth quarter. They got to play a little more relaxed. So they almost made it. And they still played and they still had an opportunity, but like they almost made it. You get to the fourth quarter. That's where you got to put the pressure on Boston. They hear the noise at the end of the day. We know that, like, at the end of the day, man, Jason Tatum has played like he's nervous and doesn't want to screw up this opportunity. Just like any other star player, I think he's wearing it emotionally on his sleeves a little more than we're used to star players. He does not want to mess up this opportunity. He knows that they have an opportunity to win this championship and they're up 2-0, and he's tried not to mess it up. He's also shot like 39 shots. He's shooting like 35% from the field, but he's doing it everywhere else. So it's like, I don't want to kill Tatum too much. Also, if you want to hear somebody kill Tatum, go refer back to my guy Jericho. He's getting into it with all Celtics fans on social media about, Jason Tatum. But I think you want to have to force, everybody's waiting for Tatum to have this 35-point, 10 rebound, 5 assist game in a win to stamp like that's the superstar. Boston don't win a lot of games. Now, the key here is, I always say role players step up at home. So I expect Kyrie Irving to play a lot better. I'm not going to kill Kyrie Irving. He's played bad the first 2 games, but also over these couple of days, he's acknowledged it. He told us, he reached out to Luka himself and was like, listen, bro, I'm going to play better for you. You are the superstar. You my guy. I love you. You're my brother. And I know that I have to play better for you. So I'm not going to kick Kyrie's back in because he's acknowledged that he needs to play better. I expect Kyrie to play better. Kyrie will play better. You saw him play like this in game 1 and game 2 back in 2016 in the finals. We know what happened after that. The rest was history. That's all I'm saying. Kyrie Irving had a bad first 2 games. It was his first time playing in the NBA Finals. His next 5 games, the rest was history. That's all I'm going to say as far as what I expect to see from Kyrie Irving. Now, 40, not a fair expectation. But the best version of Kyrie Irving scoring the ball and being effective offensively, 100%. If you told me he doesn't, I'd be shocked. For the simple fact, I fully expect this to be a Kyrie game. And to answer a mainstream media question that was talked about today, who do you expect to have a breakout game? Is it Kyrie or Jason Tatum? It's Kyrie. I don't think Tatum needs to, and I think that would be detrimental for Boston if Tatum feels like this has to be his breakout game and the stamp on the series, and he gets to have his individual performance, where I think Dallas, we need Kyrie. We need Kyrie to show up. We need him to play great offensively, but he does already know that, and I expect that to be the case for game 3. So I'm not too concerned. I'm not too worried about whether Kyrie's going to play well or not. I think he will. He knows it. I think he's focused, and he gets to be out of the Boston toxic atmosphere that they created because he left. And I don't want to, it's not on Boston, but that was a former team. And so you know how bad it could get when you show back up to one of your former teams, especially the Boston Celtics. They felt slighted for years. They haven't let it go with Kyrie Irving. They take every time they can have a chance to boo Kyrie and make it known how much they hate him. They take every opportunity to do that. And even you could tell us you're focused, and you look focused, and sometimes shots just don't go down. It's not like Kyrie taking ill-advised shots trying to take over the game. Sometimes shots just don't fall your way. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, it happens. These guys are human beings too. You go play pickup ball and have a bad day. You're not giving everybody buckets every day you play in pickup ball. Sometimes you take 10 great shots and miss all 10 because, hey, it's just not my day today. It happens. But people don't stop inviting you back to play ball because they'll be like, any other, 8 times out of 10, you play great, but you're also a human being and you got a couple bad days just like anybody else. And that's what happened with Kyrie Irving. I expect Kyrie Irving to be able to turn this around in game 3. And I think it'll be very similar. Like, I think this Luka and Kyrie duo might go for 70 combined. The scary thing is we might need them to. Like, that's the thing where I get nervous about this game is like, you might need Kyrie. You might need one of these legacy games. And so maybe this is me just speaking it into existence. I think Luka has played really well. He can play a little bit better defensively. He's also got like so many injuries. It's like, where do you want his maximum effort, offensively or defensively? You're going to have to pick and choose. A lot of times you have to pick and choose with your star players what side of the ball you want them to play harder on anyway, in a sense, or be more effective. And we know Luka has to be effective offensively, especially when, like in game 2, Luka was playing really well offensively, and the rest of the Dallas Mavericks just didn't seem like they could match his shot-making ability. So you would prefer him to play harder on offense. You would prefer him, and it's a little bit easier to play injured on offense. For those of you that don't know, you probably never played basketball, which is fine. But even when you're injured, you're reactionary on defense. And so sometimes you have to react and make movements in a way that your body, your mind won't even let you process. You just do it. And a lot of times that's when guys get hurt, is playing defense and you have to react, where offensively you could play it like a chess match. You know what you're physically able to do. You won't do anything that you can't do, and you know how to get to your spots. And a lot of these elite players, the Lukas, the Tatums, the Browns, the Kyries, all they got to do is get to their spot. And so even if they're hobbled, they can develop that. They can get that enough energy. They can wince enough and not focus on the injury enough to get to their spot and make a shot. And they can constantly do that, but defense is more reactionary. So it puts a little more toll on your body, regardless, healthy or not. You make some movements defensively that you wouldn't necessarily make offensively because you're reacting to what the offense is doing. But I think that I'm just nervous on the fact that maybe we're all going to speak into existence that Kyrie and Luka will have that LeBron Kyrie game, from game 7 against the Warriors, and they'll combine for 75, 80 points together, both beat 40 points from one, 39 from the other. And there's just nothing that Boston could do. Yes, that is what we hope. And if that's the case, then obviously not a single soul will be upset at that result for game 3. But I know I did a lot of ranting. I know I did a lot of probably all over the place for this situation. It's just like coming into game 3, you've heard it all from Tim. Everybody's done the film thing. Everybody's done the breakdown. And I like to be optimistic. Like, the sky is falling in the Dallas, for the Dallas fan base. Boston fans have been really loud. And so I just like to come in and be optimistic and just kind of paint a different picture for everybody to view it. And so I think this game, obviously, like, this is a must-win game. I'm going to take Dallas to win game 3. I don't think Kristaps will play. I think that'll be to Dallas's advantage. And so I'm going to take Dallas to win game 3, and then we'll discuss what happened with game 3, and we'll talk about game 4. I think Dallas is going to come out of here, especially if Kristaps is not available to play. I think they'll tie this series up. That's what I'm supposed to think. I think P.J. Washington will play a lot better. Derrick Jones Jr., Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, they'll be able to settle in because they won't also have to deal with nerves and the crowd against them. And especially a very toxic and not in a bad way, because fans are home court advantage. Boston creates a home court advantage environment by how into the game they are. Now that won't be the case, and it'll be in Dallas, and these guys will be able to settle in a very friendly crowd. You won't have to worry about if you airball, everybody going to go crazy, or you miss a bad shot. Like, it's not going to be your fans getting in your head constantly like you would in Boston. One or two missed shots could change your whole mental in Boston, because now you let the fans get in your head. I don't think you'll have that problem in Dallas. So I'm going to take Dallas to win game 3. We'll discuss game 4 after they handle business tonight in game 3. And I also, if you're listening to this, make sure you go to my guy TGK TV on YouTube an hour before the game, because he does a pregame show before every game. So make sure you tune in to TGK TV an hour before the game starts so that you can catch the pregame show. Love the pregame show over there. He's also been on Bleav In Mavs. That's my guy. But make sure you go check that out, because it's fun. It gets you ready for the game. It gets you excited, and it get the juices flowing prior to tip-off. So make sure you go check out, again, that's TGK TV at the Garcia Kid on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you check out his pregame show prior to. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for listening. The Mavericks are going to win game 3. You will come back here and we will talk about game 4, and there will be a lot better feeling about this series after game 3. Again, be well, be safe, take care of yourselves, and let's go Mavs.